The Mustang's engine coughed once, then went silent, leaving only the soft ticking of hot metal cooling in the Wisconsin sun. Chase Whitaker dropped his phone onto the passenger seat, exhaling through gritted teeth. County Road 28 stretched empty in both directions, hemmed by wheat fields and the occasional stubborn tree, clinging to the last of its autumn leaves. His perfectly tailored navy suit, a $3,000 mistake in this heat, was already sticking to his back. He loosened his collar, stepped out, and stood beside the car, as out of place as a Cartier watch in a gas station. No bars. Of course. He looked down at the chrome hood, open like a gaping wound. Steam curled lazily from the engine block. He didn't know the first thing about fixing it, and that fact, more than the breakdown, annoyed him. At 36, Chase had everything that should have meant something. Chairman of Whitaker Holdings, owner of 8 high-rise towers and 1 private island, and heir to a legacy older than most city maps. His face graced Forbes twice. His signature carried more power than most governors. Women smiled too wide when he entered a room. Men stood straighter. Waitstaff snapped to attention like soldiers. And yet, he couldn't remember the last time someone called just to ask how he was. He ran a hand through his dark hair, perfectly sculpted this morning by an elite stylist in Chicago's Gold Coast. It now looked like any other man's after an hour in the sun. He kicked at the gravel near the shoulder, watching dust plume up like smoke. He'd been driving to the Whitaker cabin, what his assistant called a mandatory recalibration weekend. His therapists and PR team were in rare agreement. He was spiraling, not in any obvious way. There were no affairs, no scandals, no financial irregularities, just silence. At meetings, he was present but disconnected. His fiancée Madeline noticed it first, then the board. Then his mother, though she said nothing, only watched him with that quiet, piercing gaze over her wineglass. "You've got all the right things, Chase," she'd said once. "Just not enough wrong things to make you interesting." Now he was marooned on a county road, staring at the smoking wreck of a car he'd bought because it reminded him of someone, though he couldn't remember who. The silence broke with a faint crunch of gravel. Footsteps. Small, steady ones. He turned. A girl, maybe 9, 10, was walking along the roadside, a faded backpack slung over one shoulder. Blonde hair pulled into a crooked ponytail. A smear of dirt on her cheek like a badge of honor. She didn't look startled to see a stranger with a dead car. Just curious. "You broke it?" she asked. He raised an eyebrow. "Apparently." She came closer. "It's a '67 Mustang GT, right? Looks like it anyway." "Very good," he said, bemused. "I'm not guessing." "My uncle's a mechanic. I help out sometimes." "Do you?" He folded his arms. "Well, unless you've got a cooling system in that backpack, I think I'm out of luck." She dropped the bag to the ground and knelt beside it, pulling out a small roll of silver tape and a packet of something labeled Seal Temp Automotive. "Depends what kind of broken we're talking." Chase blinked. The girl walked to the engine without hesitation, inspecting the mess with a seriousness that reminded him of a junior CEO in training. Her eyes narrowed. "Did it smell sweet before it died?" He stared at her. "What?" "Like syrup. Burning sugar." He paused. "Yes, actually. Coolant leak." She pointed at a small, unnoticed puddle beneath the car. "You're lucky you didn't crack the radiator. I can patch it if you want." Temporarily. Chase crouched beside her, stunned by the quiet confidence in her voice. "Do you do this often?" She shrugged. "I like figuring out what's broken." He almost smiled. "That makes 2 of us." They worked in silence for a few minutes. Well, she worked, and he watched her hands move with deliberate care. Her clothes were clean, but worn, the soles of her shoes patched with glue. When she reached into the engine, the sleeve of her hoodie slipped down slightly, revealing a ring on her finger. A ruby. Chase's chest constricted. It was too big for her. Tied with thread, an old-fashioned design, gold, with an intricate filigree of vines curling toward the stone. He knew that ring, and he hadn't seen it in over 15 years. "That's a beautiful piece," he said carefully, gesturing to her hand. She glanced down at it and smiled faintly. "It was my mom's. She said it was important, a promise or something." "May I see it?" "When you're finished, I mean." "Sure," she said, already tightening the seal on the radiator hose. "You'll want to add water before you drive it." "Water, right." He stood, suddenly disoriented. The sun shimmered off the metal. The field around them swayed gently in the wind, gold and endless. And in the middle of it, this child, with her mismatched clothes and confident hands, was tying a thread around his past like it was nothing. "What's your name?" he asked when he remembered to speak. "Riley," she replied. "Riley Bennett." He held out his hand. "Chase." She shook it, then tilted her head. "You don't look like someone who drives this car." "No. You look like someone who gets driven around." He laughed, genuinely, the sound startling him. "You're not wrong." She looked up at him, unblinking. "People with too much money forget how to fix things. They just replace them." Chase said nothing. The engine purred to life when she gave him the nod to try it. She beamed, stepping back, hands on her hips like a proud surgeon. But he couldn't stop staring at that ruby ring. And for the first time in years, Chase Whitaker felt something crack, something real and dangerous, just beneath the surface of his perfect, empty life. The Mustang's engine was running, but Chase wasn't ready to drive. He stood there a moment longer, the weight of the past pressing in, light as air and heavy as grief. Riley was wiping her hands on a faded towel she'd pulled from her backpack, like she did this kind of thing all the time. Confident, capable. Completely unbothered by the fact that she'd just performed roadside surgery on a multimillionaire's vintage car. "You sure you're 9?" he asked, only half joking. 9.5, she corrected, eyes scanning the engine one last time. "And I told you, my uncle's a mechanic. He taught me what matters. You don't need a fancy degree to know how to pay attention." She said it with such conviction that it caught him off guard. The way her small voice held space, like she'd had to speak up in rooms that rarely listened. "You live nearby?" he asked. She nodded and pointed. "Just down that road, about a mile past the feed store." Chase hesitated, the engine idling behind him. He was already late. He'd intended to spend this weekend holed up in solitude with a bottle of whiskey and a journal he'd never write in. But something about this girl, her calm, her words, that ring, made him pause. "Let me give you a ride," he offered. Riley considered it for a beat, then gave a small shrug. "Okay, but if your car dies again, I'm charging you." Chase laughed and opened the passenger door. "Fair." She climbed in easily, feet swinging just above the floor mat. He glanced over as she buckled the seatbelt, backpack in her lap, hands folded, posture straight. There was something old in her, like the childhood had been pushed aside to make room for something heavier. As they pulled back onto the road, the car purred in a way that made Chase feel oddly proud, though he'd had no part in fixing it. "She must have meant a lot to you," he said gently, eyes flicking to the ruby ring. "Your mom." "She did," Riley said quietly, not looking at him. She was safe, the kind of person who remembered to leave the porch light on, who always made exactly 3 pancakes because she knew that's all I could ever finish. Chase felt a pang in his chest. He thought about his own mother, Olivia Whitaker, who had once hugged him goodbye at a boarding school gate with gloved hands and a diamond smile, and never visited again. "She told me once," Riley added, "that love isn't something you earn, it's something you protect." He cleared his throat, eyes fixed on the road. Smart woman. She was, before she got sick. They rode in silence for a while, the countryside slipping by in soft sepia tones. The Mustang's leather seats were warm from the sun, the cabin filled with a faint scent of old leather and something sweeter, probably from the coolant fix Riley had used. It reminded Chase of something, but the memory wouldn't land. "You said this ring looked familiar," Riley said after a few minutes. "You want to see it?" Chase's hands tightened on the wheel. "Only if you're okay with that." She slid the ring off carefully and handed it to him. The thread unwound slightly as it left her finger. He took it slowly, reverently. The gold band was worn smooth in places, but the filigree detail remained, a delicate lattice of vines curled around a blood-red stone. The ruby was small but deep, as if it held secrets under its surface. He knew this ring. Not just vaguely, he knew it. Years ago, in a place he hadn't spoken of since Willow House. A name rose like smoke. Claire. He blinked, staring down at the ring in his palm. "I gave this to someone once," he said, the words catching as they left his mouth. Riley looked up, curious. "Who?" "A girl at a children's home." "Long time ago. Her name was Claire." His voice softened. "She used to follow me around like a shadow. Wouldn't say much, but she watched everything. I was 17. My mother volunteered at Willow House, and I was supposed to be the charming heir who smiled for the board. But Claire was different. She was the only thing that felt real." Riley was still, listening. "One day I brought this ring," he continued. "It had belonged to my grandmother. I wasn't supposed to have it. I told Claire it was a promise, that I'd come back for her. I never did." Silence again. The kind that doesn't hurt. The kind that just is. "What happened?" Riley asked gently. Chase stared out the windshield. "The place shut down." "Overnight. My father said it lost funding. I was shipped off to boarding school." Claire vanished. Riley didn't say anything. She didn't have to. He handed the ring back. "I'm not saying it's the same one, but it's strange." "Mom never said where she got it," Riley murmured. "Only that someone gave it to her and said it mattered." A chill swept through him. They turned onto a gravel driveway beside a weather-beaten mailbox. A small two-story house came into view. White siding, a sagging porch, an old red truck parked beside a lean-to garage. "Home," Riley said, sliding the ring back onto her finger. A man stepped onto the porch as they parked. Mid-40s, broad-shouldered, grease-stained jeans, protective eyes and a strong jaw that hadn't forgotten how to clench. "Uncle Wade," Riley said as she hopped out. "This is Mr. Whitaker." His Mustang broke down. "I fixed it." Wade came down the steps slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. His gaze landed on Chase, cool and assessing. "That's so," he said. "She's got a gift," Chase offered, stepping forward with an open hand. Wade didn't take it immediately. When he did, it was brief and firm. "I keep telling her that," Wade said. "But she listens better when someone else says it." Chase gave a faint smile. "I'd like to talk to you sometime," he said carefully, "about Riley's mother, and maybe where she got that ring." Wade's face hardened. "Why would a man like you care about any of that?" Chase reached into his pocket and handed him a card. "Because I think it might matter, more than you know." As he turned to leave, the sun caught Riley's ring one last time, and Chase Whitaker knew the past wasn't buried. It had just begun to resurface. Chase couldn't shake the image of the ring, not on Riley's finger, but in his memory. He saw Claire's small hands gripping it like treasure, her brown eyes wide with the kind of hope no child should have to earn. The girl had barely spoken, but when he gave her that ring, she'd said just one word. Promise? And he'd nodded, 17 and foolish and full of conviction. He never got the chance to keep it. Back in his downtown Chicago penthouse, the city spread out beneath him like a glittering web. It should have felt like power. Instead, it felt like isolation with a view. He poured a glass of scotch and sat by the window, letting the weight of the day sink in. A child in a small Wisconsin town was wearing a ring that had vanished from his life 15 years ago, and it hadn't come from a thrift store or a pawn shop. No, that ring had passed through hands that mattered. He'd asked his assistant Nolan to look into it. Now, as dusk folded over the skyline, Chase's phone buzzed. Nolan, found something? Willow House shut down in '09. Records sealed. Only 3 employees listed on public record. 1 name flagged. Sarah Bennett. Bennett. Riley's last name. His chest tightened. He tapped out a response, then stared at the screen for a long time, thumb hovering. Chase. Find me everything on Sarah Bennett. Medical license, work history, death certificate if there is one. He hit send. Just then, a knock echoed from the foyer. Madeline. He knew the rhythm of her knock before he heard her voice, low, annoyed, muffled through the thick wood. Chase, open the door. I know you're in there. I saw the Mustang downstairs. He let out a breath, crossed the room, and opened it. Madeline Voss swept in like she owned the air. Her blonde hair was pinned back in a sleek twist, her heels precise against the marble floor. She wore a cream trench over a sapphire dress that clung to her like a second skin. She smelled like roses and tension. You missed the foundation luncheon, she said, tossing her purse on the entry table without looking at him. Again. I had car trouble, she turned. In Wisconsin? I went for a drive. In a vintage Mustang? He gave her a look. Do you want the excuse or the truth? Madeline paused, her expression softening just slightly. I want to know what's going on. You've been somewhere else lately. Your mind's not here. You haven't touched the merger files. You're late to everything that matters, including us. Chase walked past her, glass still in hand, his shoulders tense. Maybe I'm just tired of pretending it all matters. Madeline followed, quieter now. You used to care about this life. About the company. About... She cut herself off. About you? He offered. She didn't respond. He turned to face her. You want honesty, Maddie? I saw a little girl today. She fixed my car on the side of the road, 9 years old, maybe 10. Wore her mother's old ring like it was a shield. Madeline frowned. Why are we talking about some kid? Because that ring... Chase set his glass down, voice rough. It's the same one I gave a girl at Willow House when I was a teenager. A girl named Claire, and now some kid in a forgotten town is wearing it like it's her birthright. Madeline stared at him, her face unreadable. You think she's Claire? I don't know, he said. But I know this isn't coincidence. Silence stretched between them. I thought we were building a future, she said finally. You and me. Marriage. Legacy. But lately, it feels like you're drifting off to some other version of yourself. Maybe I'm trying to find who that really is. She flinched, just barely. That's rich coming from a man who spent a decade sculpting his persona for press releases. Chase didn't argue. He couldn't. Madeline turned toward the door, then paused. If this little girl is who you think she is, what then? He looked at her. Not as the woman he was engaged to, but as someone who had grown up in this world alongside him. A companion in privilege. A co-conspirator in the performance. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I need to find out." She nodded once. Then, in a voice so low he almost missed it, "Be careful, Chase. Your father doesn't like unfinished business." The door shut behind her, with the quiet weight of a warning. Chase turned back toward the city, toward the maze of glass and steel and names carved into plaques. All of it built on legacy, but not all of it was his, not anymore. He picked up the ring again, the one Riley had let him hold for a moment, its thread unraveling slightly in his hand. The last time he'd seen it, it had been a promise. Now, it felt like a reckoning. He slid it into a drawer and reached for his phone. "Chase, Nolan, I need background checks on Wade Bennett. Also, find out who Claire Whitaker really was. This wasn't just about a girl or a ring. It was about a life that had gone missing, and maybe, just maybe, a part of his own he'd lost along with it." The next morning brought a pale sun and the kind of late October chill that crawled into your sleeves before you noticed. Chase parked the Mustang, now humming thanks to Riley's patch job, outside a small diner on the edge of town. It sat wedged between a shuttered hardware store and a grain silo, the sort of place where the coffee was burnt, but the truths were strong. He spotted Wade Bennett through the diner's front window, sitting in a booth with his arms folded and a paper cup steaming in front of him. His face was unreadable, cut from that working man's cloth that didn't give much away unless it was earned. Chase stepped inside, the doorbell jingling overhead. The air smelled like eggs, grease, and skepticism. "Morning," he said, sliding into the booth across from Wade. "You always make house calls the day after a handshake?" Wade asked, not bothering to hide the edge in his voice. Chase didn't flinch. When there's a ring involved, sometimes, Wade's jaw tightened. Chase set his phone on the table and folded his hands. "I didn't come to make trouble. I just want to understand how Riley ended up with that ring." "She didn't steal it, if that's what you're asking." "I never thought she did," Chase said gently. "But I know that ring. I gave it to a girl named Claire 15 years ago, at a place called Willow House." Wade looked down at his coffee, like it might hold all the answers. For a long moment he said nothing. "Her mama," he said finally, "was named Sarah Bennett. She adopted Riley when she was just a toddler. Single woman, worked at the clinic in Madison. Never said much about where Riley came from, just that she had to leave everything behind. Claimed she found her through a closed adoption. But even back then, I could tell there were parts of the story she was protecting." Chase leaned in. "You think she was hiding something?" "I know she was," Wade said, "and I didn't push. Sarah was the kind of woman who'd walk through fire barefoot for that little girl. Whatever ghost she carried, they didn't get near Riley. And now Sarah's gone." Wade nodded slowly. "Breast cancer. Hit fast. She tried to shield Riley from the worst of it, but that kid's sharp. She knew." Chase felt a knot form behind his ribs. That same kid had looked at an overheating Mustang and called the diagnosis like a pro. And now she was carrying a ring that connected her to a life Chase had buried in the dust of privilege. "Why does this matter to you?" Wade asked, eyes narrowing. "You've got money, influence, a fiancé from one of the oldest families in Chicago. What's a small-town girl and an old orphanage memory got to do with your world?" Chase didn't answer right away. Because the truth wasn't polished or simple. It was raw, aching. "I made a promise," he said finally, "to a little girl who looked at me like I was the only person in the world who saw her, and I broke it. That ring, it was supposed to mean something." Wade's eyes flickered. "I'm not here to take her from you," Chase added, "or to disrupt her life. But if Riley is Claire, if she's that girl, then there are things she deserves to know. She deserves a normal life, Wade snapped, his voice low but sharp. Not one tangled up in Whitaker scandals and inheritance games. I agree, Chase said. That's why I came to you first. Not lawyers, not the press. Wade looked at him hard, searching his face the way a man does when he's spent a lifetime spotting cracks in engines and people. Riley's strong, Wade said after a pause. Too strong, maybe. She thinks being clever will keep her safe, that fixing things is the same as fixing herself. But I've seen what secrets do to people. They make a home inside you. You feed them silence, and they grow into shadows. Chase nodded slowly. He knew that lesson well. If I find something, he said, something concrete, DNA, records, anything that proves who she really is, will you let me share it with her? Wade's jaw flexed. You bring me the truth. Not theories, not breadcrumbs, truth. And then I'll decide what Riley needs to know. Fair, brutally so. Chase stood, offering his hand again. This time, Wade shook it without hesitation. Outside, the wind had picked up, scattering dry leaves across the diner lot. As Chase climbed back into the Mustang, his phone buzzed. Nolan. Got something. Sarah Bennett listed as head nurse at Willow House until '09. Records sealed after a private buyout. Property acquired by Raymond Whitaker Holdings 6 weeks later. You seeing what I'm seeing? Chase's stomach dropped. It wasn't coincidence. His father had known. The ring wasn't the only thing buried. There were bigger truths hiding beneath those sealed files. Truths his family had worked hard to erase. And now, with Riley, he might be looking at the cost of those secrets, wrapped around a child's finger like a scar made of gold and stone. He started the car. The real story was just beginning. Chase stood at the edge of his mother's private greenhouse, watching her clip roses with a surgeon's precision. Olivia Whitaker moved through the garden like a woman who controlled every variable in her life. Light, air, appearances. But Chase had spent his childhood decoding the difference between her elegance and her evasions. You don't visit much these days, she said without looking up, her silver blonde hair tucked into a loose twist, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. I've been busy, Chase replied. But I need to talk to you. That got her attention. Olivia turned, pruning shears still in hand, the breeze tugging gently at her linen blouse. If this is about the board again, I told your father, it's not about the board, it's about Willow House. Her hand stopped mid-air. He watched her carefully. Do you remember a girl named Claire? She would have been 6 or 7 when you volunteered there. Brown eyes, quiet, attached herself to me like a shadow. A pause. A muscle in Olivia's jaw ticked. I remember the children, she said evenly. Most of them, anyway. Claire was one of the quiet ones. You gave her a ring, Chase pressed. Or maybe I did. Grandmother's, ruby center, filigree band. Now her eyes snapped to his. You still have that ring? I found it, he said. On the finger of a 9-year-old girl in Wisconsin. She fixed my car. Her name is Riley Bennett. Her mother, Sarah Bennett, used to work at Willow House as a nurse. Olivia sat slowly on the wrought iron bench like the air had thickened around her. I didn't know. I thought the ring was lost. So you did give it to Claire? I told her it was a promise, she whispered, that one day someone would come back for her. She was terrified all the time. Flinched when people raised their voices. Her file said her birth mother had died. No father on record. Chase sat beside her, the weight in his chest growing. I think Riley is Claire, he said. Sarah must have taken her, protected her, and then disappeared. But why hide her? Olivia asked. Why run? Chase stared at the roses. Because someone was watching, and now I think I know who. Olivia's hand clenched around the shears. Your father. He nodded. 6 weeks after Willow House closed, Whitaker Holdings acquired the property, and the records were sealed. No paper trail, no adoption files, nothing. I always knew something wasn't right, she murmured. He claimed the home closed due to compliance issues, but he wouldn't let me ask questions. He wanted Claire to disappear. Why? Olivia's voice cracked, the question a raw thing between them. Chase didn't answer. Because the truth lived in the shadows of his father's empire, an empire built on silence and control. But if Riley was part of that history, if Claire had survived and grown into the sharp-eyed girl with the ruby ring and oil-streaked hands, then this wasn't just about the past. It was about protecting her now. That night, Madeline met Chase at the rooftop bar of the Whitaker Grand Hotel, the one with champagne fountains and 5-figure floral arrangements. She wore black slacks and a crimson blouse, precise, polished, the kind of woman who belonged in boardrooms and photo ops. You said it was urgent, she said, sliding into the booth across from him. And based on the way you look, I'm guessing it's not about next quarter's market forecast. Chase leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. What do you know about my father's involvement with Willow House? Madeline's expression didn't shift, but her eyes did. I know he made it go away, she said quietly, and I know he didn't want you asking questions about it. Did he ever mention a child, a girl named Claire? No, she said. Then paused. But last year I found something in his study, a folder marked Gemini. Inside were files, child placement lists, medical charts. I thought it was some kind of foundation project. I didn't want to dig. You should have. I know that now, she said, voice clipped. You think I enjoy being your father's puppet? Chase studied her. So stop being one. She glanced around. This isn't the place. Then make it the time, he said. Because Riley isn't just some kid. She's part of something my father buried. And the deeper I dig, the more I realize he wasn't just erasing records. He was controlling lives, Claire's, Sarah Bennett's. Maybe even mine, Madeline inhaled sharply. Chase leaned closer. Tell me the truth, Maddie. Did he put you in my life too? Her gaze flickered, then fell. He didn't arrange us? Not exactly, but he encouraged it, pushed it. And I let him, because I thought it would mean something, that you and I could build something real. Silence stretched between them, heavy and complicated. I think he's watching Riley, Chase said. Maybe has been for years, and if that's true, then she's in danger, Madeline swallowed. What do you want me to do? Help me find out what Gemini is. Help me find the rest of those files, and if you ever cared about me, really cared, then don't tell him what I'm doing. Her voice was barely above a whisper. He'll know. Then we'd better move fast. Madeline stood slowly, smoothing her blouse. You're gambling everything, Chase. No, he said, standing to face her. For once, I'm choosing something. Not money, not legacy, a kid. A promise. And he meant it. As she turned to leave, her voice floated back to him like smoke. She's lucky, you know. That girl. Someone finally came back for her. He didn't respond. He was already planning his next move. Chase's hands tightened around the steering wheel as the security gate to the Whitaker archives opened with a groan. The old property was tucked into a quiet corner of Oak Park, a stone's throw from the city, but forgotten in every way that mattered. Once a family-owned research center, it had become a dumping ground for paper trails, No one wanted to burn, but didn't want found either. He hadn't been there in over a decade. The man guarding the gate barely glanced up when Chase passed. A quiet nod, all it took to gain access. Inside, the air was thick with dust and neglect. Fluorescents buzzed overhead. Rows of filing cabinets and shelves lined the main hallway like metal sentinels, each drawer labeled with dates and project codes. Somewhere in here, under Project Gemini, was the answer he'd been chasing across towns, childhoods, and broken promises. And maybe the reason Claire had been erased. He found the file by accident. A drawer marked GM 2006 to 2009 yielded a slim beige folder with a blood-red stamp on the front, restricted. Inside were profiles, names, photos. Children. He paused when he saw one. Claire Whitaker. Date of birth, June 12, 2013. No known father. Biological mother, Olivia Whitaker. Scratched out in pen, rewritten as unknown. His breath caught. What the hell? A noise behind him made him turn. Madeline stepped into the storage room, eyes wary. "You're not great at covering your tracks, you know." "I wasn't trying to," he muttered, still staring at the page. "You told me you saw files. Did you see this?" She peered over his shoulder. Her breath sucked in. "No, Claire was listed under your mother." He nodded, dazed, then crossed out. Which means someone wanted to bury that connection. Officially. Chase pulled another file. Sarah Bennett, employee ID 63492, former pediatric nurse. Notes. Assigned to Project Gemini, child for observation and adaptive response testing. Removed from facility following security breach. Believed to have absconded with test subject. He leaned against the file cabinet, his pulse pounding. "She didn't adopt Riley," he whispered. "She rescued her." Madeline's voice was quiet now. "And your father covered it up. He buried Olivia's link to the child, maybe even used Sarah's disappearance to discredit her." Chase shut the folder carefully as if it might explode. "She's my sister," he said. "Hey." "Claire, Riley, is my sister." Madeline took a step back. "You're sure?" He nodded, his voice almost hoarse. "My mother gave birth to twins. Riley was one. What happened to the other?" He trailed off, staring at Madeline. Her eyes met his, and something unspoken passed between them. A breath. A realization. "No," she said, her voice breaking. "Don't say it." He stepped closer. "You said your father told you, right before he died, that you weren't who you thought." Madeline shook her head slowly, as if trying to shake free of something old and heavy. "Your file was in the Gemini set," Chase pressed. He placed children with families. Raised one in the spotlight, one in the shadows. Nature versus nurture. "But why me?" she whispered. "Why put me in your life?" Because he wanted to control the outcome. He wanted to see what love would look like, what loyalty could be engineered. And if it didn't work? Chase shrugged. He'd cut his losses. Madeline took a shaky breath and turned away. Her voice was tight. "So I'm your sister." "And we were engaged." Chase winced. "We didn't know." She laughed bitterly. "Your father did." Silence stretched between them, hot and unbearable. Finally, Madeline turned back around. "What happens now?" "We protect her," Chase said, his voice firm. "We get Riley away from all this. And we make sure no one ever uses her again." Madeline looked at him. "You really mean to walk away from everything, don't you?" Chase nodded. "If it means she gets to grow up without all of this, yes." Her gaze softened. Not romantic, but something else. Recognition, a shared ache. "You know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Part of me always hoped this life would feel real someday, that all the parties, the wealth, the polished versions of us, would lead to something honest. And now? She gave a sad smile. Now I think we finally found it. Just not in the way we thought. He offered her his hand. Help me get her out. She took it. As they walked out of the archive, the sun was beginning to set beyond the treetops. The light filtered through the dusty windows, catching on their skin like forgiveness. Behind them, the folders lay open on the table, truths too long buried, finally breathing air again. And ahead of them, a girl waited, smart, fierce, and wearing a ruby ring that had started this all. The past had its say. Now, it was time for the future to begin. The Bennett house sat under a wide gray sky, its porch sagging slightly from too many winters and not enough repairs. Inside, the air smelled of motor oil and old cedar, with a warmth that didn't come from anything artificial. Just the quiet proof of life, mismatched furniture, photographs on the mantel, and the kind of worn comfort that only love could create. Wade stood at the kitchen counter, arms crossed, as Chase laid the folder between them. He didn't touch it. I brought the truth, Chase said quietly. Wade didn't look down. Doesn't mean she's ready for it. Riley was in her room, headphones on, sketching engine diagrams in a notebook covered in doodles. She hadn't said much since Chase returned, only offered him a quick smile and the same suspicious glance Wade wore now. She deserves to know, Chase said. Not all at once, not today, but soon. Wade exhaled through his nose, jaw tight. She's just a kid. She's your niece, Chase said. But she's also my sister. And what's coming? She's going to need both of us. That gave Wade pause. He finally opened the folder. The photos, the sealed records, the confirmation that Riley, Claire, was born to Olivia Whitaker under Project Gemini. The matching DNA, the falsified documents that placed her in Sarah Bennett's care after a breach of containment. Wade flipped through the pages, his eyes scanning too fast, like trying to outrun a fire line of old ghosts. When he finally looked up, his voice was quieter. She calls me uncle. I've raised her since Sarah passed. I know her laugh. Her nightmares, her favorite cereal. She is my family, Chase. Not just some piece of your past to reclaim. Chase nodded. I'm not asking to take her from you. I'm asking to stand beside you. Wade studied him for a long beat, eyes narrowed with a mechanic's precision, looking for stripped bolts, stress fractures. You say your father orchestrated this, he said slowly. Engineered her life. Yours too, Chase nodded. And what's stopping him from showing up and tearing it all apart now? Chase's jaw flexed. Nothing. Unless we expose him first. Wade's brow rose. Expose Raymond Whitaker? Chase met his eyes. Publicly. At the gala next month. He's planning to announce a legacy project at the old Willow House site. I say we hijack it. Show the world who he really is. What he did, and why Riley matters. Wade sat with that for a moment. And what if it backfires? Then he ruins me, Chase said simply. But not her. Wade stared down at the folder again. I need time, he said. Chase stood. Take it, but don't wait too long. He's watching. Later that night, as Chase stepped outside into the quiet dark, a car pulled up to the curb. Headlights flashed once. Madeline. She got out, dressed in jeans and a jacket this time. The change suited her. You told him? She asked. He read it himself. Madeline glanced at the house, a flicker of unease in her eyes. Does he trust you? No, Chase said, not yet. She nodded. Smart man. Chase leaned against the car, arms folded. "You didn't have to come. I couldn't stay in that world," she said. "Not after what we found." He looked at her, really looked. There was something different in her now. She seemed freer, as if laying down the performance had made space for someone real. "We were both groomed for something," he said. "You to look good beside me, me to carry the name. We didn't choose that." "No," she said. "But we can choose what we do now." He gave a small smile. "What are you choosing?" She hesitated. Then, to be her sister. "If she'll have me." Chase's heart twisted, soft, painful, redemptive. "You think she's strong enough to take this?" Madeline asked. "I think she's stronger than any of us." Madeline looked down. "And you? You walking away from it all?" He shrugged. "Depends what it all means." "The money? The board seats? The press releases?" "Sure, but this girl, this truth, that I'll stay for." A silence settled between them, not cold, not awkward, just true. Madeline nodded once. "Then I'll stay too, for her." They stood side by side, not lovers, not partners, but something harder to name, survivors of a story written by someone else, now rewriting it together. From the porch, Riley appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, her silhouette small but certain. "You planning to come back tomorrow?" she called to Chase. He smiled. "If your uncle lets me," she grinned. "He might, if you bring donuts." Behind her, Wade's voice. "And coffee, black." Madeline laughed softly. Chase looked at her, then back at the girl on the porch. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was performing or inheriting or hiding. He was home, even if it was only beginning to feel that way. The first thing Riley asked the next morning, before coffee, before even brushing her teeth, was, "When are you going to tell me what you're not saying?" She said it casually, standing barefoot in the hallway with a bowl of dry cereal in her hands, but her eyes were too sharp for her age. They had the same watchfulness Chase remembered from Claire all those years ago. He was pouring coffee in the kitchen when she appeared, and he nearly dropped the mug. Wade, seated at the table behind her, didn't say a word. He just raised an eyebrow and let Chase handle it. Chase took a slow breath, bracing his voice. "Riley, there are things we're still figuring out. When we know more—" "You already know," she said, "and you're scared to tell me." The air turned still. Wade cleared his throat. "Pump the brakes, kid. You don't get to drive the conversation and skip brushing your teeth." She ignored him, locking eyes with Chase. "It's about the ring, isn't it? My mom never let me take it off, even when I asked. She said it wasn't just jewelry, it was a key." Chase leaned against the counter, heart thudding. "What else did she say?" "She said someday I'd understand why she gave it to me, but she'd never say more. Just that it was mine. That it had always been mine." Wade stood up then, slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Maybe we do need to tell her." "She's not a baby, Chase." "I'm not a baby," Riley echoed, folding her arms. Chase glanced at Wade, silently asking if he was sure. Wade gave a subtle nod. So Chase knelt in front of Riley, eyes level with hers. "Your mother, Sarah, she was an incredible woman. She raised you with love, and she protected you. She made choices that probably scared her every day." Riley's jaw set. "But she wasn't my birth mom." "No," Chase said. "She wasn't." Riley's lip quivered, just slightly. Chase pressed on gently. "She rescued you. From a place where people didn't see you as a child. They saw you as something they could control. Use, measure." Riley's brows drew together. "Like a lab?" Chase nodded. "Your birth name was Claire Whitaker. You were born at a place called Willow House. And I knew you when you were little. I gave you that ring.
Riley looked down at the ruby, now tied with a thinner thread, one she had replaced herself weeks ago when the old one began to fray.
"Whitaker," she whispered. "Like you?" He swallowed. "You're my sister." The cereal bowl slipped from her fingers and hit the hardwood with a soft clink. She didn't react, just stared, like her world was expanding too fast for her thoughts to keep up. "Your birth mother is my mother," Chase said softly. "She was told you died, but that wasn't true. My father, he had you taken. Put into a program, a project. Sarah must have found a way to get you out and she kept you safe." Riley didn't cry. She just turned and walked away, her footsteps light and fast up the stairs. Wade rubbed a hand over his face. "That could have gone worse." "She needs time," Chase said quietly. "That was a lot." Wade sat back down with a groan. Try everything she's ever known flipped inside out before breakfast. Chase found Riley 2 hours later in the garage, sitting in the passenger seat of the Mustang with the door wide open and her knees pulled to her chest. He didn't speak right away. Just slid into the driver's seat beside her and waited. "I don't know who I am now," she said finally. "You're Riley," he said. "And you're Claire. You don't have to pick." She was quiet a while. "I thought being poor was the worst part of my life. Turns out it was the safest." He nodded slowly. "My mom wasn't perfect," she added. "She burned toast. She cried during movie previews, but she was mine." "She still is," Chase said gently. "No truth changes that." They sat in silence, the only sound the tick of the cooling engine. Eventually, Riley glanced at him sideways. "So, you're my big brother." He smiled faintly. "Apparently. And you're rich?" He laughed. "That too." She shifted her gaze to the dash. "Cool. Then you're buying me a motorcycle." "Absolutely not." "Dirt bike?" He side-eyed her. "You're relentless." She smirked. "Takes one to know one." That evening, Chase and Wade sat on the back porch as the sun melted into the trees. Madeline arrived just after dinner, in jeans again, with her hair in a messy braid and a bag of takeout from a roadside diner she'd passed on the way. She looked less like a politician's daughter and more like someone who'd finally exhaled. Riley eyed her warily at first. "So you're my other sister?" Madeline knelt beside her, holding out a chocolate milkshake like an offering. "If you want me to be." Riley narrowed her eyes. "What's in it for me?" Madeline smiled. "The best milkshake in Wisconsin." Riley grabbed it. "We'll see." Chase watched from the porch as Madeline and Riley sat cross-legged on the grass, the sun warming their faces, the awkwardness slowly fading as laughter slipped into the space where silence used to live. "She's going to be okay," Wade said quietly beside him. Chase nodded. "She's stronger than all of us." Wade tipped his beer in salute. "She gets that from Sarah." They watched as Riley told a story with her hands, animated and free. The ring flashed on her finger in the fading light, still too big, still tied with thread, but glowing now. Not like a symbol of the past, like a promise kept. The next morning, Chase stood at the bathroom sink in Wade's modest upstairs guest room, watching his reflection in the cracked mirror. He hadn't shaved in 2 days. The stubble suited the new version of himself he was still trying to understand. Less CEO, more brother, more human. The man who stared back at him wasn't the one who used to care about being photographed from his good side. There was a knock at the door. "Phone call," Wade said from the hallway. "Says he's your assistant. Sounds expensive." Chase chuckled under his breath and stepped out, taking the call on the porch while Riley and Madeline clinked bowls in the kitchen behind him. The sound of cereal, laughter, and an off-key 90s playlist filtered through the screen door. For the first time in what felt like years, the background noise of his life wasn't boardrooms or traffic, it was home. "Nolan," he answered. "Sir," his assistant replied, voice brisk as always. "I found something." Chase straightened. "Go ahead." "There's an encrypted ledger attached to Project Gemini that never went through digital transition. A physical microfilm archive stored under a shell nonprofit, Glenmar Foundation. The foundation went dormant in 2011, but its P.O. box is still active, paid for by, wait for it, Raymond Whitaker's blind trust." Chase's grip on the phone tightened. "Where is it?" "Main storage is in Lake Forest. But Chase, this isn't just financials. It's medical, surveillance, child development logs, and possibly names of other placements." A chill ran through Chase's spine. "Get me the access codes," he said. "We need that microfilm before my father decides to clean house. You got it?" "And just a heads up, there's chatter." Chase frowned. "What kind?" "Raymond's team is aware you're sniffing around. Legal's involved, and I think Madeline's name just popped up on the alert list." Chase's jaw tensed. "He's watching her now?" "She's not invisible anymore, sir." He ended the call and turned to find Madeline standing in the doorway, arms folded. She wasn't smiling. "You used to take calls in Italian when you didn't want me to know something," she said. "Now you just whisper. I didn't want to worry you. You are worrying me. Tell me what's going on." Chase walked down the steps toward the driveway, where his Mustang sat waiting. "There's a vault of microfilm linked to the project. It might contain the entire blueprint of what my father did." "To Riley? To you?" Madeline followed him. "Then we go get it." "You're not coming." "Like hell I'm not." He turned. "You think you're off his radar now? He knows you're helping me. He'll come after you too." Madeline narrowed her eyes. "Chase, I've spent my whole life being someone's project. Groomed, measured, packaged, and I let him use me. But I'm done being afraid of him." He stared at her for a beat, then gave a slow nod. They were no longer the couple curated for magazine covers and merger dinners. They were siblings now, twisted into each other's lives by design, but fighting together by choice. The Glenmar storage facility sat behind a decrepit office park, camouflaged by peeling signage and cracked pavement. Inside, the temperature dropped by 10 degrees, the smell of old paper thick in the air. They found the Glenmar archive box in row 12, unit 4. Madeline broke the seal while Chase looked over his shoulder every few seconds. Inside, canisters of microfilm tagged with children's ID numbers, placement records, doctor notes, and one thick manila envelope marked Claire, Victoria, twin cohort AB. Chase opened it with shaking hands. There were baby photos. Test results. Genetic predictions. Behavior tracking logs. One note was scrawled in Raymond's precise, slanted handwriting. Victoria, showing strong executive function. Claire, higher emotional acuity. Monitor divergence after placement. Madeline inhaled sharply. "He wrote this like we were cattle." Another page detailed intervention strategies, environmental stressor thresholds, and predicted failure points for both children. It wasn't just oversight. It was a simulation. They stared at the evidence in silence, the walls of the past closing in like iron gates. Finally, Chase closed the folder. "This ends at the gala." "All of it," Madeline nodded. "How do you want to play it?" "We hit them live," he said. "Projector, public announcement, media presence. I make a statement, reveal the documents, the footage. We dismantle him in front of the world." "And Riley?" "She stays here." "Out of it." Madeline frowned. "You really think she's just going to sit this out?" Chase exhaled. "She'll want to help." "But she's a kid. She deserves to be one." Back at the house, Riley sat at the kitchen table scribbling on a notepad, a mess of colored pens scattered in front of her. When Chase and Madeline walked in, she looked up with a raised brow.
"You're both terrible at sneaking off," she said. "The Mustang is loud." Chase smiled weakly. "We were careful." "You left the coffee pot on."
I took it as a sign of distress. Madeline grinned. "She's going to run her own spy agency someday." "Already does," Wade muttered from the couch, flipping through a newspaper. Chase dropped a thick folder on the table.
Riley's smile faded when she saw the label. "Gemini," she read. "We found the full files," Chase said gently. "Everything, including your name, Madeline's."
"Even mine." Riley looked at him, eyes older than they should be. "Did you get him?" "Not yet," he said. "But we will." She nodded once, then pushed the folder away. "I don't want to read it." "That's okay," Chase said. "But I want to be there, at the gala." Chase hesitated.
"You said this was about me," Riley continued. "About the truth. Well, then I get to stand in it." Wade glanced at Chase.
"She's not wrong." Chase met Riley's eyes. "It's going to be dangerous." She tilted her chin. "So was fixing your car." Chase smiled despite himself. She'd always had grit. Now he saw where she got it. "Okay," he said. "You're in." Riley grinned. "Good, because I've already picked my dress." For the first time, Chase wasn't afraid of the truth, because this time he wouldn't face it alone. The gala was 3 days away. Chase stood in front of the mirror in Olivia's suite on the 43rd floor of the Whitaker Grand, adjusting the cuffs of a charcoal suit he hadn't worn in over a year. It felt like armor now, not fashion. Behind him, Olivia sat on the edge of her velvet chaise, her expression unreadable. "So it's true," she said quietly. "You're planning to expose him." "Publicly." "I'm not planning," Chase replied. "I'm doing it." Olivia picked up a glass of red wine, but didn't drink. "Your father isn't going to stand by while you unravel everything he's built." "You know that." Chase turned to face her. "What he built isn't worth preserving, not if it was laid on stolen lives. He used Riley. He used you. And Madeline." Olivia's eyes softened. "I know." She stood, walked to him, and reached up to fix the lapel of his jacket, like she had on the day of his first prep school formal, her fingers steady, her silence louder than approval. "Then why aren't you stopping me?" he asked, searching her face. She gave a sad smile. "Because I've spent my life being quiet, playing the part. But I see Riley, and I see you now, and I know what that silence cost us." Chase swallowed hard. "She's got my fire," Olivia added, "but she's got your focus. That's a dangerous combination." He almost laughed. "You say that like she's going to win." "She already has," Olivia said, finally sipping her wine. "She just doesn't know it yet." The next morning, the tension exploded. It started with a knock on Wade's door. A man in a tailored coat, mirrored sunglasses, and a crisp black tie stood on the porch. "Mr. Bennett?" he asked coolly. Wade frowned. "Who's asking?" The man handed over a card. "Legal Affairs, Whitaker Holdings. We're requesting temporary guardianship transfer of Riley Bennett, pending investigation into irregularities surrounding her adoption and care. You'll be contacted formally within the next 48 hours. Until then, please do not move her from the residence." Wade's fists clenched. "Get off my property." But the man simply tipped his head. "We're just doing our due diligence." He turned and walked back to a black SUV that disappeared before Wade finished cursing under his breath. Inside, Chase was already packing a bag. "They're trying to box us in," he said, furious. "He's making his move." Riley stood by the kitchen table, arms tight across her chest, her voice flat. "So he wants to own me again." Madeline appeared in the doorway, her phone still in hand. "I got a call from an old friend at the Tribune. Raymond's team has leaked a press memo. Concern over possible child exploitation by disgruntled heir. They're going to smear you. Chase's jaw locked. Let them. Wade slammed his hand on the table. No, damn it. You're not walking into this like a hero in a TV movie. This is my niece, my family. Chase looked at him. She's mine too. Then act like it, Wade snapped. Get her out, before they do something worse than send suits. For a second, silence pulsed between them. Then Olivia's voice cut in from the doorway. I have a safe house. They all turned to her. She stepped into the room, calm and composed in her cream coat and riding boots. In Evanston. A house I kept under a foundation's name. No staff. No surveillance. Just walls and quiet. Riley blinked. You had a hideout. Olivia gave her a tight smile. I had regrets. I built places to store them. Madeline grabbed her jacket. Let's move, now. Chase crouched beside Riley. You okay? Riley nodded. He doesn't get to scare me. But her voice trembled. Chase touched the ring on her finger gently. Then let's take back the story, on our terms. That night, the Evanston house wrapped around them like a breath they didn't know they'd been holding. It was modest by Whitaker standards, which meant it still had 3 fireplaces and crown molding. But it felt warmer than any estate Chase had ever known. Olivia made tea while Madeline secured the Wi-Fi for the gala stream. Riley curled up with Wade and a fleece blanket on the couch, her fingers absently tracing the ribbon on her ring. Chase stepped out onto the porch, letting the cold night bite at his thoughts. Madeline joined him after a while, wrapping her arms around herself. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Tired, but ready. He looked at her. For what? For all of it, she said. For being the one who says it first, who walks on stage and tells the world who I am, who we are. No script. No handlers. He watched her. This woman he'd once almost married. Now they stood on the edge of something harder to define, something truer. I'm proud of you, he said. She looked up at him, tears glinting. I'm proud of you, Chase. You finally became who I always hoped you were. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. Instead, she slid her arm around his, and they stood together in the silence of a world about to change. Inside, Riley called out, You guys better be ready. I'm designing my own gala speech. Wade's voice echoed. No speeches, just survival. Chase smiled. Tomorrow, the past would rise. But tonight, they were together. And that, for once, was enough. The ballroom of the Whitaker Legacy Institute shimmered under crystal chandeliers, each one engineered to refract the light just right, creating a glow meant to imply transparency, though Chase knew better. Every inch of this building, once the grounds of Willow House, had been scrubbed of its past. Now it stood as a gleaming tribute to the family name his father so carefully curated, and the lies buried beneath it. Chase adjusted his tie in the mirror of a private dressing room tucked off stage, though he had no intention of keeping the jacket on long. His heart pounded, not from nerves, but from the weight of what he was about to do. 5 minutes, came a quiet voice from behind him. Madeline stood in the doorway in a dark slate dress, simple and elegant, the kind of look the old hair would have used to blend in. But tonight she wore it like armor. They're packed in out there, she said. Press, donors, foundation partners, and your father. Center stage, Chase exhaled through his nose. Let him watch. Madeline stepped inside, eyes scanning him carefully. Are you sure about this? No, he said honestly. But I'm done waiting for perfect, she nodded, then reached into her clutch and handed him a flash drive.
This has the files, everything we scanned from Gemini.
Your speech is already loaded onto the teleprompter, but only if you want it. He took the drive, their fingers brushing. I might just speak from the gut. She smiled faintly. Let's hope your gut isn't as reckless as your teenage haircut. Chase grinned. That was a phase. So was denial. They shared a look, not romantic, not anymore, but grounded in something deeper. Truth, mutual survival, and something fragile enough to call love, even if not the kind that ends in rings. In the back hallway, Riley fidgeted beside Wade in her midnight blue dress, twisting the ribbon of her ring around her finger. "Are you sure I shouldn't say anything?" she whispered. Wade leaned down, whispering back, "Sweetheart, you're 9. You fixed a millionaire's car, solved a family mystery, and stood taller than most adults I know. You don't have to say anything tonight. But I want to," he smiled. "Then we'll see how the night plays out." Just then, Olivia appeared behind them in a floor-length coat and soft heels. "They're calling the family to the table." She placed a gentle hand on Riley's shoulder and bent to whisper, "You don't owe anyone a performance, Claire. Just be who you are." Riley looked up at her. "Even if I don't know who that is yet?" Olivia smiled. "That makes 2 of us." The lights dimmed. A soft piano melody filled the room as Raymond Whitaker took the stage, his voice echoing through the high ceilings like a sermon. "This institution," he said, "was born from vision, from compassion, from the enduring belief that legacy is not merely wealth, it is impact." He wore a dark suit and a soft smile, his silver hair catching the light. To the outside world, he was regal, respectable, the architect of benevolence. But Chase watched from the wings, every word hitting like a fist. Behind him, a technician gave a nod. "We're cued." Chase stepped forward. "Run it." As Raymond raised a glass to the audience, the screen behind him flickered. Once, then twice, before cutting from the prepared slideshow to a title card. Project Gemini, The Cost of Control. Gasps scattered through the crowd as documents began to scroll. Real ones, placement logs, surveillance photos, medical predictions, stamped reports bearing the Whitaker seal. Raymond turned, frozen mid-toast. The house lights brightened as Chase stepped onto the stage. There was no podium, just him. No teleprompter, just truth. He stood in front of the crowd, cleared his throat, and spoke into the stunned silence. "My name is Chase Whitaker," he began, voice steady, resonating from somewhere deeper than his usual rehearsed baritone. "You've heard of me in press releases, in glossy magazine spreads, as the heir to this legacy. But what you haven't heard is what we buried to build it." He let the words settle. 15 years ago, this property was home to Willow House, an orphanage that closed under mysterious circumstances. What happened inside those walls was not benevolence. It was experimentation. Children were taken, separated, observed, under a program my father called Project Gemini. Whispers rose. People shifting in chairs. A woman near the front dropped her champagne flute. One of those children was a girl named Claire. "My sister. She was taken from her mother, hidden under a false identity, and raised in silence." He paused. "She's here tonight. Her name is Riley, and she is not a project. She is not a placement. She is a child, and she is ours." He looked directly at his father then. "I won't carry your legacy anymore. I'm burning it down." Raymond's mouth twitched, anger, disbelief, panic, but he remained seated, motionless. From the wings, Olivia stepped forward and joined Chase on stage, then Madeline. Then Riley, holding Wade's hand. A family not chosen by wealth, but by courage. The crowd was silent.
Until one woman rose and began to clap, then another and another.
The sound built, not thunderous, but steady, righteous. Raymond stood slowly, his eyes locked on Chase's.
"You've destroyed everything," he hissed under his breath as he passed. Chase didn't flinch. "No. I just stopped pretending it was good." Outside, the night air hit like a benediction. They stood under the lights strung across the courtyard, away from reporters, away from applause. Riley tugged Chase's hand. "Did we win?" He looked down at her. "We told the truth. That's enough." She leaned against his side. "Then can I have ice cream?" He smiled, his throat tight. "You can have two." Madeline stood nearby, her face soft. "You did it, you know." Chase nodded. "We did." And for the first time in his life, he felt clean, unburdened, whole. Even in the ruins of a legacy, something new had bloomed. Not wealth, not power, but family, chosen, reclaimed, and finally free. The morning after the gala, the headlines told a different story. Whitaker Empire implodes as heir goes rogue. Project Gemini scandal erupts at charity gala. Billionaire's daughter found after years in hiding. They were still calling Riley his daughter. Chase chuckled darkly at that. The media would catch up, eventually. In the kitchen of the Evanston safe house, sunlight streamed through wide windows, warming the worn tile floors and softening the tension that still buzzed under Chase's skin. Riley sat on the counter in an oversized sweatshirt, feet swinging, munching toast and reading aloud from one of the tabloids. One insider reports that Chase Whitaker's betrayal is not just professional, but personal. Sources say his former fiancée, Madeline Voss, was seen standing beside him during his speech, and may also be... She paused and looked up. A subject of the Gemini experiment, she snorted. "That's us, subjects. Like rats." Chase set a mug of cocoa in her hands and brushed a crumb from her cheek. "You're not a subject. You're a survivor." Riley rolled her eyes. "You've been practicing that line, haven't you?" He smiled. "Maybe." Wade stepped in from the porch, tension tightening his jaw. It started. Chase's stomach dropped. "What?" "Court orders, media vans. Olivia's already had 2 reporters knock on her apartment door. Madeline's father issued a statement distancing the Voss family from any unauthorized disclosures. Your father's lawyers are talking injunctions." Madeline entered just behind him, phone in hand, lips pressed thin. "He's not just fighting the press. He's fighting for control." "He filed for emergency conservatorship over you, Riley. Claims Wade's unfit, that I manipulated you." Riley blinked. "But he doesn't even know me." Chase set down his coffee. "That's not the point. The point is leverage. If he can paint us as reckless, emotional, unstable, he wins back public favor, even if it's temporary." "Then we fight back," Wade said. "What do you need?" Chase hesitated. "We go on the offensive." Madeline met his eyes. "That interview request from 60 Minutes, you want to take it?" "I want to do better," he said. "I want to go live." "Unfiltered, our story. No edits." Wade looked dubious. "And if it backfires?" "Then we lose," Chase said quietly. "But at least we lose together, not silently." That night, Olivia called from a quiet hotel outside Milwaukee. She sounded tired. "I never thought I'd live to see him fall," she said softly. "And yet, it doesn't feel like justice, just silence." Chase leaned against the hallway wall, phone pressed to his ear. "Because it's not over yet. He'll retreat, regroup, she said. He always does. Don't let your guard down. I won't. She hesitated, then added, You made me proud, you know. On that stage, Chase swallowed hard. I didn't do it alone. No, Olivia said. You never had to. That was the problem. He closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the quiet breath of her sadness. The space between them wasn't empty anymore. It was layered, complex. But it was healing. I'm coming back soon, she said. There's something I want to give Riley. Something I should have given Claire. Chase smiled. She'll be glad. She won't say it, Olivia replied dryly. But she will be. In the early hours, while the house slept, Chase stepped out to the backyard, restless. The stars were bright over Evanston, rare for a Chicago suburb. Quiet pressed in, broken only by the wind in the trees. Madeline found him there, arms folded, jacket over pajamas, hair tousled from sleep. You're terrible at pretending you're okay, she said. He glanced at her. Old habits. She moved closer. You gave everything up for the truth. Most men in your position would have doubled down on the lie. Most men in my position are still afraid of their fathers. Madeline gave a sad laugh. You think this ends with him losing some board seats and press goodwill? He's going to come for you. I know, Chase said, but for the first time, I'm not alone. She studied him for a long moment. What if he wins anyway? Then he wins, Chase said. But he won't erase her again. Madeline looked up at the sky, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you think we'll ever get back to normal? Chase turned to her. No, but maybe we get to build something better. She nodded slowly. That might be the most romantic thing you've ever said. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. Instead, they stood shoulder to shoulder, looking at the stars, the girl they'd both helped save sleeping just beyond the glass, and a future neither of them could quite imagine, only choose. And for now, that was enough. By midday, the world had shifted again. The video of Chase's on-stage speech, intercut with Project Gemini documents, photos of Riley, and a clip of Madeline's quiet statement to the press, had gone viral. News outlets were split between calling it a whistleblower reckoning and a family implosion. Social media burned with opinion. Some hailed Chase as brave. Others called him reckless. The headlines had teeth, and Chase knew his father was behind everyone sharpened against them. But it wasn't the court of public opinion that rattled him. It was the knock at the door. Riley answered first, then froze. Chase came down the hallway just in time to see him, Raymond Whitaker, standing in the doorway of Wade's borrowed safe house, as if he belonged there. Raymond's suit was immaculate, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, the kind worn by men who didn't apologize. His expression was calm, cold. He looked at Riley only briefly before focusing on Chase. You've made your point, he said. Now it's time to stop before you do more damage than you understand. Riley backed up a step, her shoulders squared. Chase placed himself between them, voice low and tight. You don't get to be here. I'm not here to argue, Raymond said. I'm here to give you a choice. Madeline and Wade appeared behind Chase, Wade already glaring like he was one word away from throwing Raymond off the porch himself. Raymond continued, undeterred. You have until tomorrow to withdraw your statements, publicly. I'll accept your apology on record, spin it into a narrative of family healing. You walk away with your dignity, your foundation, your stake in Whitaker Holdings, your name. And if I don't? Raymond's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then I bury you. I bury her. He nodded toward Riley. And anyone you drag down with you, that's not a threat. It's math. Madeline stepped forward, anger blazing in her voice. You'd destroy your own children to save face? I didn't raise children, Raymond said. I raised assets. Some performed, Some didn't. Riley's voice cut through the air. I'm not yours. Raymond turned, startled by the sound of her. She stepped forward now, trembling but firm. You didn't raise me. You tried to erase me, and I'm still here. Raymond looked at her for a moment, as if assessing her like a stock price. You're clever. You'll learn. No, she said. You will. Wade took a step forward, but Chase held up a hand. Go now, Chase said to his father. You've got nothing left to take. Raymond tilted his head. We'll see. And then he left. Just like that. The silence he left behind was louder than his threats. Later, after the doors were locked and Wade double-checked the windows, Chase sat on the back steps with Riley, the autumn wind tugging softly at her hair. She held a mug of cocoa in both hands like a shield. Why does he still scare me? She asked. Because he knows how to make people feel small, Chase said. But that doesn't mean he's bigger than you. She stared at her cocoa. You think I can beat him? He smiled. You already have. Riley looked up, eyes searching his face. You're not scared? I am, he said honestly. But I'm more scared of not standing up, of letting him write our ending. She was quiet a moment. When I was little, I used to pretend I had a different dad. Not because I thought I had one, but because it made me feel less invisible. I'd make him up. He'd drive a red truck. He'd teach me stuff. He'd never yell. Chase swallowed. That's what Wade is to you, she nodded. I know, but now I've got you too. I didn't expect that. Chase blinked fast. Neither did I. She looked at him. You ever want to be a dad? The question startled him. I didn't think I had it in me. Until you. She smiled softly. Maybe we both get to start over. Chase leaned in and bumped her shoulder gently with his. Deal. That night, Chase sat across from Olivia in the small sunroom. She had poured 2 glasses of wine and laid out an envelope between them. What's this? He asked. A letter I wrote to Claire, she said. Before Raymond told me she died, I kept it. For some reason, I didn't throw it out. Now I know why. Chase opened it slowly. The letter was simple. Apologetic. Honest. Claire, if I could choose again, I would have fought harder. I would have pulled you close instead of believing what they told me. I would have been your mother in more than name. I hope, wherever you are, you know you were loved. You are not lost to me. Not forever. He read it twice, then handed it back. She should see it, he said. I know. Olivia looked tired, not defeated, just stripped of pretense. You've done what I never could, Chase. You broke free of him. Chase shook his head. No. We did. She touched his hand. Protect her. She's the legacy now. Not him. And in that quiet space between generations, Chase finally understood the power of choosing love over blood, truth over silence, and family over legacy. Tomorrow would bring more headlines, more threats. Possibly lawsuits, but tonight they had each other, and that was the foundation he'd build everything else on. 3 weeks later, the court dismissed Raymond's emergency guardianship request. The judge called it an act of intimidation disguised as concern, and handed full custody rights to Wade Bennett, with a strong rebuke of Whitaker Holdings' interference in Riley's life. That morning, when the news broke, Riley didn't cheer. She just slipped her hand into Chase's as they watched the press conference replay on TV and whispered, "Is it over?" Chase squeezed her hand. "It's beginning." The media frenzy faded slowly, but the chaos inside Chase felt even slower to settle. His name was no longer on the Whitaker Holdings masthead. His penthouse sat empty. His once constant phone buzz had been reduced to polite silence. But what he'd lost in prestige, he'd found in something harder to measure. Peace, clarity, and a kind of family he'd never known he needed.
Now, he stood at the edge of a construction site in the city's south side, formerly the location of the Willow House orphanage, soon to be transformed into something else entirely. A modest new building was going up in its place, the Claire Sarah Bennett Center for Youth and Family Renewal. A mouthful, maybe. But Riley had insisted. She named it herself, Wade said, walking up beside him, coffee in hand. Wouldn't even let me vote. She's earned the naming rights, Chase replied. She's earned a lot of things, Wade said, and so have you. Chase looked at him. That almost sounded like a compliment. Don't get used to it, Wade grunted. But he was smiling. They watched in silence as workers laid the foundation. Riley stood nearby with Madeline and Olivia, holding blueprints and pointing animatedly at something on the second floor. She'd grown more confident with each passing day, more herself, and for the first time she wasn't reaching for some imaginary version of safety. She was building it with her own hands. She's going to do something big, Chase said quietly. She already is, Wade replied. So are you. Chase didn't answer. Not yet. That night, back at the Evanston house, Chase found Madeline in the dining room, curled into an armchair with a glass of wine and a stack of envelopes in her lap. More fan mail? He asked. She smirked. Half fan, half scandal speculation. One woman thinks I'm part of a secret government twin experiment. Wants to send me a tinfoil crown. He laughed. You always did look good in silver. She held up one envelope. But this one's different. It's from someone named Dr. Lena Halbrook. She worked at Willow House. She says she wants to talk, said there were more girls, more families. Chase's humor faded. You think it's real? I think we're only at the edge of what Raymond started. He buried a lot, Chase. We exposed the flagship. But the others? The shadows are still deep. He nodded slowly. Then we keep going. Not because of revenge, because of Riley, because no one else should grow up wondering where they came from. Madeline looked up at him, something soft and real in her gaze. You ever think about how different this could have been, every day, if we hadn't been raised like assets? If we hadn't met through a lie? He stepped closer. Then I wouldn't have found Riley, and you wouldn't have found yourself. She smiled, but it was wistful. You think this is our ending? I think it's a beginning, just not ours, not the way we thought. She stood, brushed past him gently, and kissed his cheek. Then let's not waste it. Later that night, Riley padded down the hallway in slippers and found Chase in the den, flipping through an old photo album Olivia had brought by. Can't sleep? He asked. She shrugged. Too many thoughts. About the court thing? No, she said. About my speech. Chase looked up. You're still giving one? It's my center, she said firmly. I have things to say. He grinned. Of course you do. Riley climbed into the armchair across from him, tucking her feet underneath. Do you think I'll ever feel normal? He paused. Do you want to? She tilted her head, considering it. Not really. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Then forget normal. Go for whole. Go for free. Riley smiled. Can I put that in my speech? Only if you give me credit. Not a chance. They sat together like that. The kind of silence that felt earned, not awkward or heavy, but full of knowing. Finally, Riley said, I think I'll always wear the ring. Even when it doesn't fit anymore. Chase looked at her. Why? She looked down at the ruby, still tied with thread. Because it reminds me that something broken can still hold something precious. He swallowed, throat tight. You're something precious, Riley, she grinned. You're not so bad yourself, for a millionaire turned mechanic. Billionaire, he corrected. Technically. Oh, excuse me. They laughed together, the sound echoing softly through the quiet house. Outside,
The wind shifted, and inside, the past finally loosened its grip, making room for something new. Spring came late that year. The kind of reluctant spring that arrived with muddy sidewalks and bare trees teasing green at the tips. But to Chase, it felt like something more. A beginning. The grand opening of the Claire Sarah Bennett Center was modest by design. No paparazzi, no gilded donor wall, just a clean modern space filled with light and a crowd that cared more about stories than headlines. Riley stood at the front, her dark curls pulled into a half ponytail, a navy blazer over jeans, and a stage presence that made Chase's throat tighten. At 10, she already carried herself like a woman who'd lived several lives and wasn't afraid to tell the world how it shaped her. "I used to think the ring on my finger was a mystery I'd never solve," she said to the crowd, her voice clear and steady. "But now I know it was a circle, a loop that was waiting to close. Not with answers, but with love." She lifted her hand. The ruby still sparkled on its thread, though now the thread had been woven into a delicate silver chain. A new piece, a hybrid of the old and the new. A ring reborn. "I'm not just Claire, I'm Riley, I'm both. And this place," she said, "is for every kid who's ever been hidden, hurt, or made to feel like they don't belong. You do. We all do." Applause rippled through the room, heartfelt and slow, building like a wave that crested in tears and pride. Chase stood at the back, next to Madeline, Olivia, and Wade. He didn't need the spotlight today. Riley had earned every beam of it. "She's a force," Olivia said softly. "She's yours," Chase replied. "No," Olivia said, her voice warm. "She's ours." After the ceremony, they walked the halls together, Olivia pointing out the rooms. One for music, one for storytelling, another for vocational training. Riley had requested a mechanics bay, a place for hands-on healing, she called it. Chase lingered behind until he found himself alone in the unfinished garden out back, standing where the Willow House courtyard once sat. The brick had been torn up, replaced with soil and budding plants. There'd be flowers here soon. He was still there, hands in his pockets, when Madeline found him. "I thought I'd find you brooding in the roses," she said with a wry smile. "Trying not to," he replied. "Hard to believe it's really done." She nodded. "You did it." "No," he said, turning toward her. "We did." They stood in silence, watching Riley through the glass as she chatted animatedly with a young girl and her mother. "She's going to be okay," Madeline said. "So are you," Chase added. She glanced up at him. "You really think so?" "I do." Madeline hesitated, then asked the question that had hovered for weeks. "Do you ever wonder, if we hadn't been who we were, products of the same lie, if we might have made it?" He didn't answer right away. Then he touched her hand lightly, just once. "We were always meant to find each other, just not to stay." She blinked, but didn't look away. Bittersweet, but true. They smiled. Two people who had survived the unmaking of a life and found something better in its place. Not romantic love, not this time, but truth. And connection. Madeline stepped back. "There's someone I want you to meet later," she said. "She's with a team starting a reform network, tracking down other Gemini survivors. I think she could use your stubborn sense of justice." "You trying to set me up?" "Professionally," she teased, then added, "But she is cute." Chase laughed, the sound easy. "Let's take it one beginning at a time." That night, Chase sat beside Riley on the porch swing of Wade's house, a gentle breeze tugging at the wind chimes above them. She held a box in her lap. "I want to show you something." He watched as she opened it to reveal a new ring.
A silver band with a tiny engraving inside. Loved, seen, free.
"It's from Olivia," she said. "She gave it to me this morning." Chase traced the edge with his thumb. "It's beautiful." She looked down at her hands. One ring tied with thread, the other polished and solid. "I don't know which one to wear," she admitted.
"You don't have to choose," he said. "One reminds you where you came from. The other tells you where you're going." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "What about you? What reminds you?" He was quiet, then said, "This." And he wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. Not wealth. Not headlines. Not the name etched into buildings. This. A girl who once fixed his car on a country road, a family forged from truth, a life rebuilt from the ashes of legacy. Riley closed her eyes. "You're going to make a great dad one day." "I already am," he said softly. She grinned. And above them, the wind stirred, the chimes sang, and the past, finally, let go, making room for all the love they had left to live.